Hello, I'm Liam Turner, CIH's digital editor. As part of the 2025 CIH vice presidential election, I've been speaking with the 5 hopeful candidates to find out a bit more about their background and their ambitions for the CIH presidency. In this video, I speak with Evie Copland, a well-known presence within the sector and CIH, having served as both a founding member and former chair of CIH Futures, and as well as other capacities. She currently serves as the Director of Customer and Communities at Berwickshire Housing Association. And as you'll see in my chat with Evie, becoming the president of CIH has been a long time goal of hers. Okay, right. So jumping into the questions then. And the first question I have for you, Evie, is what does housing mean to you?
Well, housing means everything. I think as I've set out in my statement, I was brought home for the first time to a council house in the middle of a scheme in the outskirts of my hometown of Dumfries in South West Scotland. My mum and dad still live there today. I was raised there with my two brothers, and the biggest thing to happen to me up until I was about 16 was being decanted to a house a couple of streets over for major investment work to happen in our home. And having never been a family that had moved, let alone, left the country, that was quite a big, life event for us. And returning home, the house was completely different. We had a modern kitchen, we had a shower installed for the first time with central heating, windows we could close, double glazing. The list was endless. It was heaven compared to how it had been before. And I don't remember much of the housing professionals that made that happen, but the impact that they had on my life has been kind of fundamental to what happened next. And that council house gave us the security of home and tenure that allowed both my mum and dad to return to education as adults as we were growing up, and gave us the stability to, that kind of solid cornerstone of life. I was the first in my family to go to university and ever. So, that foundation we had, thanks to the housing, was, pretty pivotal to everything in my life. As an adult, I trained as a journalist. I got my first job in a housing association comms team and didn't look back. I was able to get involved in all sorts of things in a large housing association, as I say, in my hometown of Dumfries, in South West Scotland. So it was brilliant. It opened my eyes to something that, I hadn't even considered. So much so that, pursuing journalism became a very much back burner decision for me. And actually I realised there was so much more I could do just in terms of continuing my journey into housing. So as an adult, I've always been a private sector tenant, still am today. And in my free time, my voluntary endeavours, I've always been very much of the housing persuasion. And more recently, to try and develop myself and what I can contribute to these things, I've gone back into a kind of academic environment, back to university to complete the postgraduate diploma in housing studies, and more recently the masters, both helping to kind of open my eyes in terms of what housing can do, has done, the history, and actually why we need to keep things moving forward and progressing.
And I know you've been involved with CIH in various ways over the past few years. What does CIH mean to you?
Sure. I mean, without being trite or cliche, CIH means everything. I've been the person that's the last one standing on a Friday afternoon having to come up with, a solution to help a family or an individual. If people approaching you homeless with nowhere to go that night, I've been, the comms person trying to make a nice message out of something that's incredibly difficult. I've been part of sort of backroom teams making projects happen that improve services. I've been part of, participation exercises, but everything, frontline, backroom. As I moved up through more senior leadership roles to the role I'm in today, CIH is that kind of connecting factor for everybody within the sector that that kind of professional standards, the code of ethics, the thing that connects everybody to that way that we do what we need to do. And I think for me, it was a turning point for me. I spent the first kind of couple of years of my career without CIH membership, and I was encouraged to join by someone I greatly respected. And I mean, my only regret in terms of CIH was not joining when I first joined the sector. But like most things, you get out what you put in. I think for me, the platform I was able to use there, the collective voice that I was able to be part of, this was never about personal acknowledgement or something I could do myself. This is about what we could do, unified as a group of professionals in Scotland, across the UK, and more globally as well.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, I'm talking to you as part of your campaign to become the next CIH vice president. So, why do you want to become the next CIH vice president?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this for a long, long
Hmm.
time, a long, long time, and I feel that the contribution, just in terms of voluntary service with CIH already, in terms of the Scotland board setting up CIH Futures, part of the team that did that, latterly chairing CIH Futures, I've sat on the governing board and the governance committee for CIH. I've thought about this for a really long time. I think my own growth and change that coming in from a relatively naive young professional to the experience I've had since, and
Mm.
actually being able to kind of contribute in a much more meaningful way thanks to what I've been able to do through CIH. I think some of this is about paying it forward. I want to be able to make sure that others have access to those opportunities on behalf of the membership, but also, I also don't want to be having the same conversations in
Mm.
20 years' time that we're having just now about, housing emergency, lack
Yeah.
of supply, lack of new homes, poor quality housing and
Mm.
accommodation, children going to bed in temporary accommodation, not being able to, live in homes that allow, the people around about them to exercise their rights fully. But there's something about the vice president and ultimately the presidential role that I feel I could make a difference there as well. And I think on behalf of members, I'm not someone who is the usual type of candidate. I don't think I'm very much kind of still operational in a lot of what I do. I work for a very small housing association, so I think in terms of what fellow members are experiencing, I'm a lot closer to that, and I think I could represent that really, really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you were to become president of CIH, what key issue would you want to tackle or raise awareness of?
Sure. I think this for me is really about the work of Shelter Scotland,
Mm.
Shelter Cymru, and Housing Rights in Northern Ireland. So very much about the lobbying work to increase the supply of new homes. Perfect week to begin to be thinking about that as a campaign with the announcement of the huge investment in
Hmm.
housing in
Hmm.
England with the spending review. But also, as much as this is about new homes, the housing emergency is more than simply supply. So people who are in homes that aren't suitable, um, temporary accommodation crisis, highest number of children in temporary accommodation on record in places. So this is about, people out in the world, out in society having access to that high quality, independent and impartial housing advice as much as it is about increasing supply alongside the increasing um, ask on housing professionals in terms of where they send people kind of next.
Yeah, yeah. And final question I've got for you. What has been the proudest moment of your housing career so far?
Well, I think that would change on whatever day
Mm.
I was asked for that. I think on a personal level, there have been many, many proud moments in terms of being successful for jobs, picking up awards, being part of campaigns and projects that have really meant a lot to me, most of which have been either with a CIH cap on or around my hometown, in terms of the work I did with Mid Steeple Quarter and the community-led housing agenda that I really believe very passionately in. But for me, I think that the proudest moments are where I've been able to either be part of or contribute to people growing into their role, and whether that's, at work, even just this week, seeing some of the difference in colleagues just having the space and the support, some of this through membership, through, being able to go out into a training environment, get qualified, that sort of thing, and supporting that. That's amazing. But also, things like being able to, pass the baton on things as well, and seeing people kind of move towards being able to do this thing themselves. So again, it's that paying it forward agenda. And I think just in terms of even futures, CIH futures, when I was able to kind of pass the baton, if you like, to my vice chair at the time, James Ballantyne, who passed it on to Alicia, who's now an excellent chair, with the membership that's coming through, that, what could be better than that, making sure that, we're leaving things that bit better than we found them for the people who come after us.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And as I say, that's the end of the questions I've got to ask you. Just before we finish up, just wondered if you had any final thoughts for people watching.
I think all I would ask is just vote. You've got a selection of 5 brilliant candidates, myself included, of course, but 5 people putting themselves forward to be the vice president this year is incredible. I think with all that people have got to do on a day-to-day basis, the fact that 5 fellow members have said, I would love to be considered for that, is such a positive thing, and I've just encouraged people to use their vote.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks, Evie.
No bother.
Right, thank
No
you.
bother.
Bye.
Thank you. See you soon. Cheers.